Right, this is a brief overview of the different types of point of view that you should be considering as you're writing your story. So most of us have a draft already currently written, and so you've already incorporated one of these three types of point of view. And I want you to be a little bit more conscious and aware of those types of point of view as you're moving forward with our final drafts. So the first type of point of view someone might choose to write in is called omniscient. This is where the narrator, or whatever point of view, is all-knowing. They can read all the thoughts of the characters, they can explain every event that takes place in the story, they can sort of look down on all the events, settings, and people and dictate that information to the reader. The second is probably the most common, and that is first-person point of view. This is when the main character tells the story in I form, meaning they speak from their own perspective. And then the third type of point of view is called limited third person. This is where the narrator tells the story from a point of view of one character, but the observer can only describe what is seen, and they speak of the character as he or she, meaning they don't read the thoughts of all characters, just the main character, but they also don't speak in I form. So it's important to make that difference between the three. So when we're thinking about why we would choose different types of point of view, you might choose omniscient if you have a lot of different settings and a lot of and multiple protagonists, where you might need to know the thoughts of all different characters. Or you might choose first person because you want to have an intimate relationship between the reader and the protagonist. Or you might choose limited third person because you do want to have that deep connection between the reader and the main character, but you also want to be able to tell a little bit more information beyond just what the character can explain themselves. So be thinking about that as you're moving forward with our stories. Now let's look at some examples. This is a brief excerpt of My Indian Education by Sherman Alexie. It's an excellent short story. I'm going to read the section called Second Grade, and I want you to take a guess as to what point of view this is told in. Betty Towle, missionary teacher, red-headed and so ugly that no one ever had a puppy crush on her, made me stay in for recess, 14 days straight. "Tell me you're sorry," she said. "Sorry for what?" I asked. "Everything," she said, and made me stand straight for 15 minutes, eagle-armed with books in each hand. One was a math book, the other was English. But all I learned was that gravity can be painful. For Halloween I drew a picture of her riding a broom with a scrawny cat on the back. She said that her God would never forgive me for that. Once she gave the class a spelling test, but set me aside and gave me a test designed for junior high students. When I spelled all the words right, she crumpled up the paper and made me eat it. "You'll learn respect," she said. She sent a letter home with me that told my parents to either cut my braids or keep me home from class. My parents came in the next day and dragged their braids across Betty Towle's desk. "Indians, Indians, Indians." She said it without capitalization. She called me Indian, Indian, Indian. And I said, "Yes, I am. I am Indian. Indian, I am." Now let's see if we can't guess the type of point of view in On the Sidewalk Bleeding. The boy lay on the sidewalk, bleeding in the rain. He was 16 years old, and he wore a bright purple jacket, and the lettering across the back of the jacket read, "The Royals." The boy's name was Andy, and the name was delicately scripted in black thread on the front of the jacket, just over the heart. Andy. He had been stabbed 10 minutes ago. The knife entered just below his ribcage and had been drawn across his body violently, tearing a wide gap in his flesh. He lay on the sidewalk with the March rain drilling his jacket and drilling his body and washing away the blood that poured from his open wound. He had known excruciating pain when the knife had torn across his body, and then sudden comparative relief when the blade was pulled away. He heard the voice saying, "That's for you, Royal," and then the sound of footsteps hurrying into the rain, and then he had fallen to the sidewalk, clutching his stomach, trying to stop the flow of blood.